There was a 911 call that the incident was happening, that a woman was being chased up the street and being shot at.
And it was a breakup round. Like you might have heard 4 or 5 the first round. That's when I was like, something not right. By the time the second round, I was already outside and I just couldn't get fast enough look, but you can definitely see that there was drama.
The officers made record time getting there. They were in the area. As they approached, they could hear gunshots.
Back at y'all with another video, man. About a married couple down here in Detroit, in the Gratiot and Gunston area. The McIntosh family. Andrika and Brian. She's like the mother of 8. You know, tragical situation. You know, between the two of them, you know, my heart goes out to both their families because everybody loses in this one. The kids, the families, the mother and the father. You know, I know divorce is rough, going through it with somebody that you've been together with for years. And dealing with it, it takes a lot. And that's what this story is all about, man. You know, Brian obviously couldn't take the situation that was going on, you know. The day of, they supposed to be court date to finalize their divorce, or to get the divorce, he shoots her. Man, oh man. And you know the story after that. But not only did he shoot her, he was caught red-handed, man. Still standing over when the police pulled up. Still standing over with the gun pointed at him. Can't get out of that, man. It's over. So, y'all watch, let's see how this unfolds. And when you're done, tell me what you think about it. And after that, click that button and subscribe to this channel. And like this video. Share it.
On August 4th, 2023, Andrika Sims was on her way to court when she made a detour. She was 2 hours away from officially getting away from Brian McIntosh, the man that had tormented her for years. She had moved out of the house they both shared months before filing for divorce, but on that day, she made a detour back to her previous home. She wanted to get a change of outfit, one that said she was about to be divorced and free. Next thing she knew, she was running down the street at full speed, her husband Brian right behind her, a firearm in his hands and rage in his eyes. She had a phone in her hand and 911 on dial. They were her only hope of making it out alive. But just as the cops were about to reach her, she tripped, and next thing she knew, she was staring down a firearm.
Police say when they arrived, they found 6 shell casings and her husband, 35-year-old Brian McIntosh, standing over her with a gun.
We don't know exactly what led up to it. We know that they were going through a divorce, and it was a very bitter divorce proceeding.
In fact, they were scheduled to be in court less than 2 hours after he allegedly her.
That morning was supposed to be the start of her new life. Instead, it became the scene of her execution.
She was a very caring person. She was lovable, she was open, she was very open, and she was very giving.
Her name was Andrika McIntosh.
Happy 12-year anniversary to my husband and I. Lots of ups and downs, but the key is communication. You are the man God made in his image for me. I love you with my entire heart. You gave me 10 beautiful and smart children and accepted my son as your own. You are my rock, my king, my everything. To the outside world, Andrika Sims had the perfect life. She was a devoted wife, a loving mother, a woman who believed in love, in marriage, in fighting through the hard times. But behind the joy-filled photos and heartfelt words she often posted on her social media, something was deeply wrong. As the years passed, the cracks in her marriage became impossible to ignore. She felt unappreciated, unheard, and then came the betrayal. Brian McIntosh had been unfaithful. She never called him out by name, but she couldn't hide the pain she felt in her Facebook posts. She would often write out her feelings like she did when she posted about infidelity and how a man can cheat on you with a person who looks completely different from what he said he was into. Andrika wrote, "Serious question, please chime in. Okay, so your spouse, significant other, boyfriend tells you he likes and prefers you. Natural meaning, real hair, no makeup, lashes and whatnot, but then he goes and cheats with that same kind of chick he don't want you to be. Why is that? Not sure if I said it correctly, but you get what I'm trying to ask." She was quick to clarify that she wasn't asking for herself personally, saying she was just curious. But with the kind of posts that followed, it's easy to question if she really was just curious, or if there was some truth to the story, a truth she was trying to hide. On another occasion, she was a bit more obvious about what could have been going on behind the scenes. This time around, she wrote about someone leaving another someone high and dry after being unfaithful. That person is having sex with someone else. You want that person back after they have been having sex with someone else? God knows how many people it has actually been. Where is your self-value? She started, but that wasn't all she said. Andrika followed it up with what sounded like a warning to not take the cheating spouse back because it shows a lack of self-worth. They know that you're going to take them back and they are going to do it again. Wake up, wake up, wake up. That person came into your life to teach you self-worth and self-value. They came into your life to teach you a lesson. Now it's time to say goodbye, she said. As time went on, Andrika continued to waver back and forth between posts that implied a happy and fulfilled home and posts that implied a more broken home, a home broken by a lack of trust, appreciation, and infidelity. One time she reposted a video about not wanting to be married again, if anything ever happened to her husband, of course.
I'm gonna be 100% honest with y'all, all right? I love my husband. Like, I love that man to death. I love our relationship. I love what we have built together. I love being his wife. But if anything were to ever happen where we weren't together anymore, I would definitely not do this marriage again. I don't think people really understand the effort that goes into having a successful marriage. This is not easy. Do not believe that fairy tale that you see on TV. Just because you love each other does not mean your marriage is going to work. Love is not enough.
By August 2023, Andrika had come to a decision. She was done, she was tired, and she was ready to leave, but she never got the chance. Andrika Sims was more than a wife, more than a victim. She was a mother to 8 children. She worked hard, juggling jobs to give them a good life. She was known for her big heart, for always putting others first. Her family meant everything to her.
She was a very caring person. She was lovable, she was open, she was very open, and she was very giving.
But in her marriage, she was drowning. She tried to hold on, she tried to make it work, but love was not enough. The infidelity, the arguments, the feeling of being trapped all became too much. Andrika wanted out, so she somehow found the courage to file for divorce. She was finally going to break free from him. She never saw it through.
Andrika McIntosh was shot and killed outside her home on Detroit's East Side Friday morning. Police say when they arrived, her husband was standing over her with a gun in his hand.
There was a 911 call that the incident was happening, that a woman was being chased up the street and being shot at. The officers made record time getting there. They were in the area. As they approached, they could hear gunshots.
August 4th was supposed to be a normal day. Andrika had a court hearing to finalize her divorce from Brian. She stopped at home to grab some fresh clothes before heading to court. She never made it out alive.
Well, on Friday morning, Andrika was set to have a court hearing for her divorce, and just hours before, she stopped at home to get a change of clothes. And that's when her then husband, she was trying to leave, allegedly showed up with a gun and killed her.
Brian was waiting for her, filled with rage. He had already lost control of his marriage. He refused to lose control of her. As Andrika stepped inside, Brian pulled out a firearm on her. At first, he said he just wanted to talk about the divorce, and Andrika agreed. He didn't give her much of a choice. She tried to keep the argument neutral because she knew if things escalated, there was no one around to save her. But Brian was enraged. He didn't have to be tipped over the edge. He was already at the edge. She sensed danger in his eyes and fled, dialing 911 as she ran for her life. But he chased her down, and as the sounds of the sirens got closer, for a second, she felt relief. She knew she wouldn't have to run for much longer until she tripped. That's when the bullets hit. One, then another, and another. until she stopped moving.
But they just couldn't get there in time.
He was actually standing over her with the gun in his hand. They ordered him to drop his weapon. He did. They immediately took him into custody.
The suspect, Andrika's soon-to-be ex-husband.
By the time the cops arrived, all they heard were loud bangs as shell casings littered the ground one after the other with the firing of each bullet. They saw a pool of red quickly forming around Andrika, getting wider as they got closer.
Police say when they arrived, they found 6 shell casings and her husband, 35-year-old Breon McIntosh, standing over her with a gun.
He had no emotion, no remorse. They ordered him to drop the weapon, which he immediately did. His evil purpose had already been achieved. He was taken into custody on the spot. Brian's selfish act left their 8 children motherless.
She just had the biggest heart. And for him to just take her away from us is just, just sad.
Before 8 a.m. on Friday, 35-year-old Andrika McIntosh was shot and killed outside her Detroit home on Gunston Street.
Her sister, burying the woman who was supposed to grow old with her. Her mother, grieving a child she could never protect from the man she trusted. Her eldest daughter, Sania, forced to grow up overnight.
My mom, she was a very caring person. She loved everybody.
Sanaya holds on to the countless memories spent with her mom. They were supposed to see Barbie together on Saturday and spent many summer days at Metro Beach Pool.
All of my siblings was inside of the pool, and we all splashed at her to get in, and so she got in with us.
Sania had been counting down the days, a simple mother-daughter outing, one last moment of joy. Instead, she was left with heartbreak and loss. The impact of the loss on Andrika's children is immeasurable. Their parents were the one constant in their lives, and now they have to reconcile with the fact that their mother was taken from them by the very man they once looked up to, their father, now a murderer. For Andrika's mother, the loss was even more cutting because just 1 year before Andrika was brutally taken from her, her husband passed away and she had to say goodbye to him. Now she was being forced to say goodbye to her daughter. It was all too much. Andrika's children are left to navigate life without the person who loved them most. The community was shaken, her friends left devastated, and a city left asking, how many more women have to die before things change?
Andrika's murder is the 8th domestic homicide in Wayne County this year.
Andrika Sims was supposed to be in court that morning, finalizing her divorce. But because of one wrong turn, her family was planning her funeral instead.
She was a year younger than me. I love my little sister. She was just, her heart was everything.
It was after 7 o'clock Friday morning when Andrika was killed in front of her home on Gunston near Connor on Detroit's east side.
First at 11, deadly domestic violence taking the life of a loving mother just hours before her divorce hearing.
Because Brian was caught red-handed, there wasn't much of an investigation to do. They quickly deduced that Brian had been set off by Andrika wanting to leave him.
We don't know exactly what led up to it. We know that they were going through a divorce, and it was a very bitter divorce proceeding.
In fact, they were scheduled to be in court less than 2 hours after he allegedly killed her.
He didn't say much during the interrogation, but they did manage to confirm a motive. It was the oldest tale in the book. If he couldn't have her, then nobody else could have her. Jealousy is often the #1 reason people unalive their partners. The community had a lot of questions following Andrika's passing. Could the authorities have done a better job protecting Andrika? And most importantly, could her death have been prevented?
As Andrika's family grieves, they say her death could have been prevented and hope something will change so others don't go through the same thing.
You see, what happened to Andrika Sims wasn't new in the community. Andrika's story is not unique. DV is an epidemic. It's a silent killer that thrives in secrecy, in shame, in a system that fails women before they even realize they need help.
Deadly domestic violence making headlines in Metro Atlanta. 3 murders in as many weeks. January 16th, a Covington man is accused of shooting his wife and stepdaughter to death before surrendering to police. January 7th, a man walks into a hair salon in Duluth, shoots and kills his wife in front of their daughter before shooting himself. He survived. And just a day after ringing in the new year, Rainey Overman, a beloved Metro Atlanta nurse, is shot and killed at this hotel in Decatur. The GBI says her lover pulled the trigger and then killed himself.
A person who's abusive at home might be perfectly charming at work.
Kim Frendak of the Women's Resource Center to End Domestic Violence says such tragedies can easily spill out of the home and into the workplace and beyond.
It affects us at the parks and at the malls and wherever we might be.
Even in schools. In Southern California, investigators say Karen Smith, an elementary school teacher, was gunned down in her classroom by her husband, Cedric Anderson. Anderson then turned the gun on the classroom, killing an 8-year-old boy and wounding a 9-year-old, and then killed himself. How can we tell if a fellow co-worker is being targeted by an abuser?
There are subtle signs.
Here's what to look for.
Uncomfortable phone calls going on, a mark on an arm or extra makeup, a lot of nervousness about leaving the office and going to the car.
And we shouldn't be shy about asking questions.
Then you can say, I'm concerned about your safety, and I want you to know that it's safe to talk to me.
But what if you don't want to pry?
We really want you to make it your business.
That deadly violence can impact us directly or indirectly.
It's a community-based problem, and it requires a community-based solution. So we want you to ask, care. We want you to believe what you hear, and we want you to, without judgment, help this person who is suffering find the resources so they don't have to walk this scary journey by themselves.
Andrika was the 8th woman in Wayne County whose life was taken in a domestic dispute that year. Those statistics scared the residents of Wayne County, not just because cases of DV were on the rise again in their community, but because, according to their police chief, the level of violence meted out has risen to a scary degree.
Detroit Police Chief James White says the city is also facing this issue.
When you talk about intimate partner violence, we're seeing a slight uptick, but the level of violence is up, right? Where it's going from assaults to fatalities.
The police chief sounded a warning to members of the community, especially women, saying they needed to tread carefully because the most dangerous time for a woman facing DV is when she has made the decision to leave. According to the chief, that's when offenders get the most violent.
It really needs to stop. It's crazy. I feel like these men is not thinking about the life that they're leaving behind. They're not thinking about their children when they take their mother.
Cases like Andrika's happened all over the state, in other communities not far away, and some that are far away.
We are probably the strictest on domestic violence in the United States. Here in Nassau County, it's a mandatory arrest if there's a misdemeanor.
Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman said it was important to bring the issue of domestic violence to the forefront. He cited the abuse Gabby endured from her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, while on a cross-country trip. She was left in the wilderness where she was found dead. Laundrie later took his own life.
There have also been a number of cases outside the city, most recently in Saline, where a woman was shot and killed by an ex-boyfriend outside her work.
We have a lot of people victimizing people that they at one point purported to love.
The case is heart-wrenching enough that the lead prosecutor on the case, Prosecutor Kim Worthy, had her own warnings to add. The alleged facts in this case are an egregious example of what domestic violence looks like. The death of Andrika McIntosh is the 8th domestic violence homicide this year, and very unfortunately, there will be more. In her career as a prosecutor, Prosecutor Kim Worthy has seen a number of cases that has led to believe that leaving a DV situation can be the most dangerous thing a woman ever does, and if not done carefully, could lead to a disastrous end for the woman. She said, "This cannot be said enough. The most dangerous time in the life of a domestic violence victim is when they are trying to leave a relationship," confirming what the Chief of Staff said about DV previously. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, DV is classified as a serious public health problem in the U.S. Their data suggests that about 1 in 5 homicide victims are killed by an intimate partner. The reports also found that over half of female homicide victims in the United States are killed by a current or former male intimate partner. Men like Brian McIntosh don't realize through the haze of rage that they weren't just destroying one life, they were destroying their own children's lives. Brian was sentenced to life in prison, but what does that change? Andrika is still gone.
A mother of 7 children, Andrika's family trying to focus on how she lived rather than how she died.
We would always go swimming. We love swimming. We love doing that. Metro Beach specifically.
She just didn't deserve it. She was a good-hearted person. She loved everybody.
Brian McIntosh was charged with premeditated first-degree murder and felony firearm offenses. He is currently awaiting a trial. The prosecutors are still putting together their case against him to make sure he doesn't get the chance to walk free after what he did to Andrika. This case would be updated as more details are released. Andrika Sims did everything right. She loved her family. She tried to make her marriage work, and when it became too much, she tried to leave. But for some women, leaving is the most dangerous decision they'll ever make.
The term domestic violence and abuse is quite broad. Within that, we see various types of abuse that include intimate partner violence, dating violence, stalking, financial abuse. Sexual assault can be perpetrated by a current or former intimate partner most commonly. So the term domestic violence and abuse can really be a broader umbrella term for various types of abuse that exist within that frame. Sometimes it's a partner who's perpetrating violence and abuse on a spouse or a former spouse or dating partner. Sometimes it can be the adult child who's returned home and is living with older parents, who's perpetrating a type of abuse that's different than that, intimate partner violence, but still a form of domestic violence is very serious.
Her story is heartbreaking, but it's not unique. Across the country, domestic violence is escalating. Women are being murdered by the very men who once vowed to love them, and the question remains, why does this keep happening? But if a man is willing to kill his wife rather than let her leave, should society start treating domestic violence cases like potential homicide threats from the very beginning? Should harsher legal measures be put in place before a crime is even committed? And finally, the uncomfortable question, do we as a society ignore red flags in relationships until it's too late? Should we interfere more when we see signs of abuse, even if it's none of our business? Or does personal privacy still come first?
It's a crime that affects all of us, and unfortunately, it could be headed to your workplace. According to NBC News, about 3 women in America die every single day from domestic violence. And it's not just confined to the home. Already this year, we've experienced that deadly trend right here in Metro Atlanta. But there's ways to recognize it before it reaches your job.
Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think there's a solution? Or is this a problem that will never go away? And remember, if you or someone you know is in danger, help is available. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 879-923. Stay safe, stay aware, and let's keep this conversation going.